What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show with Josh Morris and Stacy Talich. Hey guys, we have an exciting show for you. It's going to be probably a little shorter. We're going to try to keep. We're not going to do the marathon 2 hour shows or hour and a half tonight because unfortunately I've got to run tonight. But we want to get into UFOs now. I know we always talk about ghosts on here, so I'm excited. As we talked about last week, if you didn't watch last week's show, what the hell, man? Go back and watch it later on. Don't leave this show, but go watch that show too. And then we also kind of talked about this show that we would get into the UFO. So the government dumped a bunch of files and whatnot out there, which we'll get into in more detail a little later as well. But they did like a big info dump, so everybody was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna know all the secrets." Well, Stacy had a chance here to glint the files. There's like 15,000 pages or whatever, so he had a chance to glint through there, and we'll give you sort of the scoop on that again a little later in the show. We don't want to just spoil it right off the bat for you, but we want to talk about some UFO theory and some alien stuff. Because why not, right? We don't normally talk about it. And then we also have some announcements coming up here real soon, some pretty big announcements, or at least one big announcement for sure that I want to share with you guys that I'm super happy about. Big old mouthful. So Stacy, how the hell are you tonight?
Doing good. You know, it's a nice relaxing day today. Didn't have anything to do except, deal with students and walk my dogs. So I was happy.
Nice. Yeah, it was a nice day out too. Like the weather here got pretty decent, so I was happy. And I think even right now it's still like 64 degrees at night. So that's good. All right. So I want to dive right into UFOs and aliens. So obviously this has been something that has plagued mankind for thousands of years. It dates all the way back. Some will say way back further, like there's an argument to everything, right? So, but some will interpret some of the cave drawings and stuff that have men in spacesuits, UFOs. Bottom line, this subject goes way back. Whether it was their imaginations back in the day, who knows? I'm sure we always sit there and think that we're like so creative, but I'm sure our ancestors, all they had to do was sit around and hunt and survive. I'm sure they wanted to entertain themselves and think shit up and have some imagination. So who knows? It could just be fun stuff that they were putting on there and thinking up aliens and spacecraft. Who knows? I know that's weird, but I'm just throwing that out there. So bottom line, though, this has definitely been a subject for thousands of years. So what about you, Stacey? Do you think does aliens exist out there? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. It's given the vastness of the universe and our meager time of existence, even if you look on the clock of how old the Earth is, as opposed to how long we've been here, it's a blip. And if civilizations have existed throughout the universe, they would look like gods to us in comparison. Hey, Bob.
Yeah, Bob says hi. What's up, Bob? So I'm glad to see Bob. I got a chance to see him. So, Bob, hopefully you take me up on that offer for next week. Trying to get Bob on the show if he feels up to it. But yeah. So I'm inclined to agree in the sense that I think that you would have to be, and this is almost in the words of my grandmother, but she always said you'd have to be naive to not think that there's got to be some kind of life out there in the vast universe. Yeah. And I believe that. I think she was true on that. That as big as we are with planets that in theory, or, I know how they always say like, oh, they've discovered all these planets and stuff. But, a lot of times when you see the real pictures, it's like 4 dots like a planet. Like that's stupid to me. I still don't. Then they do artist renditions like, see this planet? Like whatever, man.
Yeah.
But I will say, in theory, when you have these other galaxies and stuff, and the planets, if they're in that right zone, and I think we even mentioned this before, that we don't. It doesn't have to necessarily be that basis that we think like we have to have X amount of oxygen or whatever. life tends to thrive in some pretty harsh conditions.
Mhm.
But in any case, there's plenty of planets out there that seem to be in that zone, whatever. Always forget what they call it, like that green zone or life zone,
Golly-
whatever they call it.
Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, Goldilocks zone. So they have the term for it, and I knew they did. So they have that term, right, Goldilocks zone, and so you figure there's gotta be life out there. Now, as far as whether it's advanced beyond us and travel and have been here, that's another discussion. So, do you
Yeah.
think aliens have visited this planet? What do you think?
Yeah, there's an argument to be made that we're not native to this planet. You know,
Okay.
if you look at just from a biological standpoint, every creature on this planet, once it reaches the age of puberty, however long it takes to get to the age of puberty, the average life expectancy is 5 times that. So, like a dog will reach the age of puberty for 6 months, and multiply that times 5, and you get about 6 to 7 years on an average dog. Every animal on this planet has that, whether it be the mosquito to elephants. At the age of maturity times 5 is the life expectancy on average. Humans are not. We can get to 3 without modern medicine, but we getting to 4 and 5 times the age of puberty, we cannot do on average to without the modern conveniences of what we have, because we're just susceptible to everything.
Right.
Microorganisms of all sorts, cancers and different things like that. We really do not have the life expectancy that is indicative of every other creature on this planet, which is an anomaly in of itself. Not to mention that our blood, it isn't native to oxygen as being its main carrier. They found that it's actually nitrogen. If we're given more nitrogen than we are oxygen, we can actually live in other environments with just nitrogen. It's not, which is again something that is not native to this planet. Um, there's all kinds of things that we have that the next closest species, the orangutan or the ape, also share, but our genes look like they've been made in a lab in comparison, because you have the chromosomes all line up, and then all of a sudden they click together and create a V shape at the very top. No other species does that. Through evolution, the science of evolution, no other species will have a splice essentially to create an entirely different species. It's usually a mutation that takes place, and it branches off and has its own unique indicators all by itself. Which leads a lot of people to believe that we were not native here. We were part of a genetic mutation, genetic experimentation from another advanced species.
Right.
For what purpose? Who knows? But
Yeah.
then you want to get into the whole idea of a secret cabal. They're the ones that seem to believe that they're the chosen for some reason. What gave them the idea that they were chosen by anyone?
And I think there's definitely some interesting theories out there. And in all those, they tend to have some kind of make sense about them type thing. There's arguments for all kinds of things. I'm not always a big fan of the evolution argument. It seems like lately, even some of the scientists have been kind of really backtracking on Darwinism and stuff here as of lately. So definitely some interesting factors in that. But I do want to say that Bob had mentioned when we were talking about UFOs. Bob had mentioned that in the Navy in 1967, he saw a house-size, UFO basically visually on radar, and in the middle of the Atlantic, which was telling, was telling his captain, was telling him not to log it in. And if you guys want to hear more about that encounter, you actually can dig through my video archives and actually find another time when Bob Fountain came on the show when we talked about UFOs. And trust me, there's not many episodes with UFOs, so you should be able to find it. But it's a few years back. But we definitely talk about that incident there, and we get into some good UFO discussion there. So if you like this discussion, go check out that video as well. Go back in the history also. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, there's a lot of historical anomalies on that front. I mean, evolution says that we were knuckle draggers living in caves for 200,000 years. Some even go back with Lucy, 2 million years. But all of that time, we made no advancements. And then all of a sudden, civilization pops out of the middle of nowhere in the desert of Iraq. And it had advanced mathematics, advanced language. Civilization literally came from nothing to absolutely what we would consider to be civilization today, shy plumbing and electricity.
Right.
You can't go from nothing for hundreds of thousands of years and then all of a sudden, boom, it exists in Mesopotamia.
And I would even just say Hayaniga's family, but I would say even if you believe that we, like our technology, which again, we can talk about some reverse engineering stuff too. But even if you said like our technology, we evolved or whatever, but so looking even at evolution in that sense, it to me, it doesn't make sense that we just diverted and instead of that ape type creature evolving and becoming human and then no longer having the ape, it's like they stopped evolving. They haven't made any evolution leaps themselves with the apes and things really any more than we have for a couple million years, if that's the time frame that they're talking about, or even a couple 100,000 years, which is a lot of time to adapt some evolution. Some people say, well, the real human race is only around X amount of time. It's very young and it hasn't got to evolve in that sense. But I call BS because we've seen many other species adapt. Their species adapting and evolving even just in over 10 years or 50 years, combating there's plants that's combating pesticides and things like that, growing hairs, evolving, starting to have hairs on their leaves when they didn't always have hairs on their leaves to keep the beads of killer off them and things like that, or waxy surfaces, things that weren't always on that particular species but has evolved here as of in the modern times. So don't sit there and say that we can't evolve, over a couple 100,000 years. We can't make a huge amount of changes. And I know our brain size has kind of actually gone down. It was getting bigger and bigger. Our brain size, there's a scale, it goes up and then it starts to level out. And actually, our brains have been starting to shrink ever since the introduction of agriculture. So that's a whole nother subject. I don't want to get into that. But in any case, I just wanted to kind of also back you up a little bit on that whole evolution kind of thing. As far as aliens go, so let's just say we are native to Earth. Let's just say that for the sake of, or for the argument's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But aliens that, we do seem to have these records and accounts of these unusual encounters. Some would even argue that there's, descriptions in the Bible that almost match UFO type descriptions. So we have ancient scriptures that describe almost things up in the sky where, again, back in the day, and I'm sorry, but you're not going to, even back then, you're not going to sit there and confuse birds for some of the things that they described. And we didn't have anything flying back then, So, what say you on that?
Yeah, and it's not localized to one region. So you have like a local mythology, like in China they have dragons, and the idea of dragons was pretty, local to the East and Eastern China. And some say that's where the dragon actually came from, was from comets and UFOs. However, you have petroglyphs all over in Australia, in South America, in North America, where people were drawing stick animals of, wildebeest and buffalo and things like that they were, you know, planning on for the hunt, teaching, basically with a drawing, this is how you hunt these things, like a, a map to the hunt. And then all of a sudden they got an alien with a helmet with little blinky things going on, standing right next to the buffalo. Come on, then it happens over and over and over again, different time periods, thousands of years apart, thousands of miles apart, no communication between them, and they're all seeing the same stuff.
Right.
It's too improbable for science to go poo-poo all that stuff away simply because an alien hasn't landed on their front yard and shit on their doorstep. That's the only proof that I'm going to believe. That's a cynic. That's not a skeptic.
Right.
Cynics are, no matter how much evidence you produce, you will never convince a cynic. Skeptics can be convinced.
Right.
51% in the evidence, that's what a jury does. 51% of the facts sways a jury. A cynic, you could have 99.9999% all facts, and the cynic go, nope, don't believe it. No. And
there's a lot of that going around today in the politic world. But anyways, the one thing I want to say is that okay, so because I want to touch on a little bit of what you're talking about with the alien stuff and the history. But so one of the questions I have, asked just about every single guest that's been on my show is, if you could go back in time for one day and like maybe be a ghost and just observe a day in the history of our time, when would it be, and whatever. So, and we've had different answers. And of course, I've always stuck with, I would like to go back and observe a day like when the pyramids are really like being built, when they're being functionally used. And I just feel like because the pyramids, like we've had theories of giants helping build the pyramids. We've had other theories of like I've seen some other practical theories of how they were built.
Now, I'm assuming the pyramids you're talking about are the ones in Egypt.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just talking about that right now. I mean, I know we could look at the pyramid structures throughout and South America and stuff, but I mean, and Antarctica pyramids. But just talking about Egypt, the mystery behind the Great Giza pyramids. So, and then of course there's like the alien theories, that they were used in different capacities because they found almost like the copper tubing, like maybe wiring somehow, and like there's been all these different theories that how the pyramids were really used and all this stuff. But again, it's all theories. But that's why I've always stuck with, because I feel like if I see what really happens with the pyramids, then a lot of other things will lock into place, whether it was aliens, whether it was giants. If it was none of that and they were really just us building them, then I'll be like, fine, I'm done believing in everything.
I'll make you a deal. You finish my course that I sent you, and when I'm up there, we'll run a queue, and it will be the pyramids, and you'll get to see it for yourself.
Yeah, there's always that possibility. Let's see here. Let me look at the comments. I know Bob's been talking. One source said that up to 10% of our DNA is a result of viruses. Well, and that would make sense if we're learning to like code ourselves, where it's like, oh, we learned to combat this, we got to store that and keep, and that's part of preservation. So that makes sense. Dr. Brandenburg, PhD, believes we may have come from Mars. I also knew somebody that believed that we were from Mars and women are from Venus. Based on several factors. We need to evolve so our nose is sideways so it quits running in our mouths when we have a cold. What was God thinking when you
that? Oh, that would be awful. You turn your head and all of a sudden there's a big booger sitting there. People would be able to look right down your schnoz.
Right, and that's not going to make the booger eaters happy, right? So we all know there's some booger eaters out there. It's gross, but anyways.
it would allow for piercings to be a lot better because you could just go straight through a lot easier.
Right. Uh, yeah, I mean that is, I think though maybe that might be for the purpose of being able to maintain your stuff, again, just to make sure that you can be presentable or something. I'm not sure, but yeah. So anyway, so I just want to catch up the comments on that. Okay, so aliens. Now, um, do you believe that there was a crash landing?
Yeah, several.
Okay. Do you
There's
think there was more than one?
yeah, and it's not
For
just
us, for America, like our government, or you think it
oh
was
yeah,
different places in the world?
in different places. There've been different crash landings. Some of the most lucrative, I should say, have been archaeological digs. They were found by someone else who wasn't even looking for that kind of a thing. All of a sudden, they dig up, and there's supposed to be an ancient site, and they dig up a flying saucer.
Right.
That kind of thing has been. Bob Lazar is the one who worked at Area 51. He came out as a whistleblower. Is all the UFOs that he worked on weren't from Roswell. None of that he got to see. What he saw was stuff that was from archaeological digs, and what they were trying to do is reverse engineer what they found in the dirt, and you know they were able to do everything as far as recreating the craft except recreate the energy source, and it was a new element, the 115, I think he said, that
Right.
it hadn't been discovered or invented yet. And a couple of years ago, I heard that the Hadron Collider in Sweden, they actually
Right.
created a new element called 115. So who knows whether or not that's actually going to be a thing? But uh, yeah, according to him, they're finding these things all over in archaeological sites. Uh, Antarctica is the most recent. So
Yeah, I mean, and I, it makes you curious. If you really look at technology, you do see a steep incline, but then you also look at and say, well, if you have certain breakthroughs that lead to another, yeah, you could have that kind of steep incline in technology. But there is a few key things that when you look at how some of these things were created by their inventors, there's a few sketchy situations where like all of a sudden they like not to like take anything away from Back to the Future, but it's almost like that sketchy, like, well, I was hanging a clock, and I slipped on the toilet, hit my head on the toilet, and whatever, and I dreamed the flux capacitor, and now I did time travel, and it's almost that bad. Like, there is a few inventors that had talked about like they had a vision or dream or whatever, and it's like it almost makes you wonder. It's like, is this like the government just saying, okay, and they're planting that they reverse engineered it from an alien? Not to sound too conspiratorial, but they obviously would have to explain where that technology was invented. So, what better way than to make somebody believe they invented it,
mhm.
even if they weren't, even if they didn't even know the government implanted that information in them? Like that mind control type stuff, where they, and then the person woke up and did some sketches, even if the shit didn't work, and they did some sketches and turned it in, and the government's like, "Yeah, you did good, man. You invented this. Good job."
Yeah. Well, a few things like the microwave, the semiconductor, and the laser were all suddenly popped out of existence into existence. The laser, you can kind of do a trace back to they had what they called a phaser before, which is why you see that a lot in Star Trek, because something actually existed back in the day in the 60s called a phaser, but it didn't look like a laser. It was basically a flashlight that, could pulse at different levels. And it wasn't a weapon of any kind. It was more of a beacon than anything else. Microwaves weren't even discovered until um, the Navy started doing experiments with the first computer, the UNIVAC. they had these huge vacuum tubes that, were part of this computer, which was the size of a room, and all it could do was add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But they noticed that the vacuum tubes that they were creating to manage this whole computer thing, every time someone would go in while the computer was running into that room, they would get burned without getting close to it. One guy had a candy bar in his pocket, and it had foil around the candy bar and everything like that. And sparks started to shoot out of his pocket, and the candy bar melted all the way down his shirt. And they didn't know what that was until they did some investigation. Scientists investigated, and they discovered microwave at that point, which is why we have microwave ovens. But that is supposedly the origin of this microwave thing that they tell everyone, that some schmuck just walked into a computer and got nuked, and that's how we discovered microwaves.
Well, and I think also too, though, you can trace some of that back to scientists exploring the frequency levels. Once we started discovering frequencies, and when you look at the spectrum of light, all the way from like gamma rays, like all the way down to low frequencies, it's ultraviolet, all the different, so you got to imagine they probably were like, oh, what else can we keep pushing on the frequency and spectrums and stuff, so I'm sure that was a big factor of. And then, of course, yeah, like trial and error when they're using things that are generating these type of things, and all of a sudden they're like, "Whoa, what the hell's that?" Then they could say, "Well, we were putting an output that is in this range of frequency and whatnot."
Well, hold that thought. That makes sense because we want to accept the line that is being given to us, because we will accept bullshit over the truth more often than not, because it just makes sense, because if the truth is so weird that it would make my mind have to expand, I'd rather suck down the bullshit that somebody else is giving me, because that just makes me feel better, so I don't have to think about it. One of the things that we are going to get into here with these documents is people who are suffering from side effects from being in close proximity to a UFO, whether it be flying overhead, whether it be landing or landed. It pulses these energy waves, and people start to experience things not too dissimilar from being exposed to microwave radiation and electromagnetic radiation. They get burns, they get, brain issues, heart issues, lung issues, because they're being burned from the inside out. And that is just being in close proximity to these UFOs.
Right.
If the government had discovered things way back when, in the 50s and the 60s, and they were trying to reverse engineer it, the things that they would experience themselves, these scientists, would be very similar. And they could reverse engineer the microwave, because they're noticing something that is an anomaly that they have to investigate. Whereas walking into a room and then some guy's his candy bar melts all over him doesn't scream national security to me.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean, and for sure, I mean, they would definitely have to create like cover stories, so to speak, and good wild stories always sells it. And that was even, I always hate saying the name because I don't like to get like in any trouble on YouTube or anything, but like Hitler was that way with his propaganda. He was like the big lies, and he would just outright lie, and it was so shocking. His lies in the media were so shocking that people were like, we have to believe this. Like his country, Germany, and stuff, they would read these the paper, and they would hear these things about America and stuff, and they'd be like, well, it has to be true. It's so bold. Why that can't be a lie. It has to be true.
Yeah.
And so they're like, nobody would say that in the paper, So in any case, that's like what you were talking about there when they start having some of these cover stories, things like that. But yeah, so I think And I want to throw my what?
Spencer Pierce was the guy.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. Good job, Anika's family. So here's kind of what my take on where we are with some things. I think that one that as far as conspiracy goes. Now I'm not talking about actual yes or no things, but I'm talking about conspiracy wise. So you figure we're here where we are because one, we had actual history of like cave paintings and drawings of these creatures, these mythological creatures, like again, space type things, flying type machines. You have that. You've got ancient scriptures, the Bible, things like that, stories that people have told over the years. And then as we get into more modern times, we've got the introduction of movies and imagination and sci-fi, right? We start putting some of that into fictional stories, and people are watching it in the movies. They're sometimes art imitates real life. Sometimes maybe there's some truth to some of it. But no matter what, pop culture starts to incorporate all these alien stories, history, conspiracy theories, all of these things get to this point now where we're sitting there going, what's real and what's not real? And we're like, you got people like us talking about these things, trying to decipher what really happened. Did we really have these type of things crash and happen and evolve? And meanwhile, the government's just like, cool, man. We've kind of got now where even when they said that, yeah, UFOs are real, we're all just like, yeah, we kind of knew that. It's like we're not even shocked anymore in that sense. So I'm gonna start opening the can of beans here in a second. I want to dive in. What exactly did the government release with those 15,000 plus pages? But I'm gonna give that floor to you here in a second.
Okay.
First, I want to make an announcement, folks. So I want to take a moment to again tell you guys thank you so much. For those of you that are watching, you guys know that I have a series called Para Explorers. It's on Paraflix. Now, a lot of you watched the first episode. I had a lot of great feedback. You guys were like, "Hey, man, we really hope that you get to do more episodes." And of course, the second half of the year, there was a lot of complications. So, with that being said, we only really got to film that one episode last year. We did a couple short films that I got to release for you guys in the Halloween timeframe. So, with that being said, Paraflix has discussed with me and made official that the Para Explorers officially is a Paraflix original now. So I'm just super happy to announce that to you guys, because those of you that show up in the chat, those of you that watch the show on replay or watch my investigations, all the content that we do on the Everything Paranormal show, and then of course going over to Paraflix and watching Para Explorers, because obviously the executives, they were fans of the show, and they wanted to see more. So I'm so happy to be able to provide that to provide that announcement to you guys. So I will say right here,
family now,
right? So, and I will say that right here, I just put down here, if you want to get Paraflix, if you haven't gotten Paraflix yet, because we're filming more the Paranormal Journey. If you've watched the show, you know that there's a quest. The quest is resuming. We have contact from Para X again, and in fact tonight and this Sunday we're filming some episodes. But we're back in the quest. We're back in the hunt, trying to complete objectives, trying to survive each episode. So just wanted to let you know we are back to filming. But if you want Paraflix, I have my own code now. Go to Paraflix, use promo code ParaExplorers10. That'll get you 10% off for the first 3 months. And guys, I think it's only like $4 a month or something. Or you can do like a yearly. I mean, I think the yearly rate's like only $20 or $30 total or whatever. I don't know, but it saves you even more money. But guys, go get Paraflix, because they have blown up so much in the last year. And we're just going to keep getting better, more and more original content. It's not just ghost hunting shows that you can find on YouTube. There's some original programming. And again, my show, Para Explorers, is also going to become an original. So excited for that. Wanted to share that with you guys because you guys are my family as well. And I've been taking you guys along for the journey also. So, and Terry Lynn's finally home. That's why you haven't seen her in the chat.
Where the hell is Terry Lynn?
Well, she had to go and bring our son home from a tennis tournament and drop him off, and then she had to go around and get some food for them and stuff. Because I'm fasting. I've been fasting all for I was like really bloated yesterday, not to share too much information, but I was like, my stomach was like really bloated. So I was like, man, I'm not going to eat. I'm not, and I've done some long fasts before. So I was like, I'm just going to fast. And then today it's like, I got filming tonight. So I'm like, I just don't want to take any chances. So I just haven't eaten today either. So I'm just doing like a big 48-hour whatever fast, and I'll just eat after filming tonight or something. So I'll break my fast maybe tomorrow morning or something. But we'll see. But
don't out, you don't want to be at a haunted location and all of a sudden just drop, because who knows what could happen then.
Oh no, and I mean I'm not gonna drop. I've been drinking water and staying hydrated and things like that. So, and my body's got plenty of reserves. So, so trust me, I'll be good for that. And I probably, because you can fast for up to a week, really. I mean, if you really, really wanted to, but you probably don't want to do too much of that. So, but yeah, there's Terry Lynn, of course, Jack. What's going on? Jack's my son. So that's actually our son popping in there saying hi. So it's good to see you guys. All right, so let's get back into the UFO chat. Again, that was kind of the announcement. I don't think I really have anything else other than just I'm filming tonight, filming Sunday. Can't wait. And yes, Terry Lynn is going to be in, at least one of the episodes so far.
Nice.
She is part of the team, so she's going to be out there. We do have a team. But we have to follow the rules. If you guys watch the show, Para X dictates all the rules. So some shows, the first one was just me alone. Some shows will have 4 people, 3 people, 2 people. Who knows? There's all kinds of different things that could happen. So, but we do know that in one of the shows, that's all I can really discuss, is that one of the shows, which I believe may even be this next episode 2, the kind of the big debut coming back, will also have Terry Lynn in there as well. So I'm super excited, and we've got some surprises. So guys, I'm so excited, and I just hope we pass, because that's the thing. It's like we're not just gonna go film. Like we have to go and complete challenges. We have to survive these challenges. We have to make it through filming, through the objectives and challenges, and we don't even know what we're always up against yet. So, and there's just like the first one, I had a surprise, challenge thrown in there at the end, and so guys, we don't even know fully what to expect. So just wish us luck, wish us luck. So we're filming tonight, like I said, based on everything. We'll see what happens on the next one, but we have certain dates locked in that Para X wants us to go do. So, all right. So yes, Bob, all right. All right. So let's get back to some UFOs so we can start wrapping it up. I want to try to wrap up things by 10 o'clock tonight, guys. Again, I've got, a team member coming for tonight's shoot at 10:30. So I want to make sure I'm kind of get everything prepped, and I've been packing my car, taking everything I can think of, because that's the thing, is you don't always know what you're up against with this whole challenge thing. So it's like I don't even know what to all pack. It's like I'll take the dowsing rods, I'll take the spirit box, I'll take I'll take all this stuff with me. I think the only thing I didn't take, I don't think, is the SLS camera, but fingers crossed. I'm hoping that I don't have that in the challenge. So, because that would suck to be like, all of a sudden it's like, we get a challenge from Para X, like, hey, you got to use the SLS camera. It's like, I don't have it. So I don't know if that would be a failure or not. So I don't know. I don't want to think like that. I've got a ton of other stuff, so we'll go from there. Bob says, question, do you think that X-Files was a program to leak the truth? Well, I think it personally was just a good show to, you know, just like us, guys like us sitting around going, what if, and getting us to think. Often, we try to do that. But what do you say, Stacy?
Well, a lot of the stuff that they had for the X Files, they had individual shows, but it had a long season arc to it, and the long season arc is what people remember because that's the big reveal. With Deep Throat and all of that. I think that was uh, part of fed by MUFON, where they created that long story arc. Everything else was urban legends, from skinwalkers to Death Eaters to a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, cryptoids and things of that sort. They just each individual episode was a new urban legend that they dealt with, and
Right.
you know, Chris Carter is a genius as far as the writing was concerned because it wasn't pedantic. It always kept you engaged no matter what was going on. Sculler and Mully were perfect for each other.
Yeah. And that's the thing when you get certain shows that come together like that, visually, storytelling, characters, all that. That's the shows that we remember. That's the classics, And X Files was definitely one of those. And the what we liked about it was the content, right? Folks like us, we like the content. Believe it or not, though, I actually didn't watch all the X Files. I wasn't really big into the show. I know it's crazy, but I respect it. I respect its place in pop culture and history, and how many people did enjoy the X Files. So
It was like the last network series that really did well, where everybody, like in the 70s and the 80s, everybody watched the same show, whether it be Knight Rider or the $6 Million Man or whatever it was. Everybody watched the same shows. X Files was literally the last hurrah, and that kind of a thing where everybody watched the show, and then they cable.
for me.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. Like it's almost like our selection was limited, so we had to watch. Not only we had to watch Knight Rider and A Team and $6 Million Man and stuff, but it's like we also had to watch the reruns of all the shows from the 50s and 60s, the Honeymooners, even the Flintstone cartoons were always being rerun.
Yeah.
So right. So we had that appreciation of all of that stuff. And then, of course, once we really got into where everybody started getting cable TV and all these other channels started to become like have quality programming. Well, I say quality, but you know what I mean? Like program that people were actually starting to actually migrate to away from the networks. Then there was like so much choice, just like nowadays, that you can have some of these like those people watching hit shows on like Netflix or something, and I'm like, they talk about, I'm like, I don't know, like I'm not on Netflix. It's like there's so many places that you have to be in order to see like that particular awesome show, or
and they're getting a fraction of the eyeballs. These hit shows are getting a fraction of the eyeballs that they got for the X Files and even MASH. MASH still has the record holder of the most eyeballs on the series finale.
Yeah. And what's really cool about I don't mean to get too much off subject, but what I've always appreciated on some of the older shows is like a lot of times you go back in the first season or two, and there some of the shows are so much better than you realize. That's the thing, like because you look back and you're like, oh, Gilligan's Island, whatever, Goofy, this and that, but they had some really good episodes on some things. So what was you yelling? I don't know if Terry Lynn was yelling at me or not, but one of the shows that I always like to make an example of in a way is. So for some of you older folks, there was a show called The Greatest American Hero, and it has to do with aliens. This kind of comes back to the alien thing, but this professor, this teacher, so to speak, or teacher, I think was he summer school? I don't remember, anyways. But the teacher, Ralph Hinckley, he got a spaceship visited him, right, basically, and they left him this suit, and then he like lost the instructions. So like he had the super suit, but almost like Superman kind of thing. But Taylor was talking to Christian. Okay. I just heard I heard my wife, and I'm like, oh, what? So, but I hear a stomp, so that's good. So, but anyway, so he had that super suit, and so it was like a comedy as well. He had like a buddy that was like an FBI agent or whatever, and there was like a love interest, Pam and stuff, and he had like his students. But the point is that it was a comedy slash action. There was bad guys, good. It was the classic format. There was a problem, like a bad guy kind of problem that he would have to solve by the end of the show, and of course the comedy would ensue of he would fumble through it trying to use the suit. He couldn't quite fly real well, and would crash into things, and kind of that bumbling hero. But if you go back and watch the first really season for sure, and even the first two seasons, like it really wasn't bad. Like especially some of the first few episodes were really well written. I was actually surprised. I was kind of going to go back and think it was going to be a lot of cheese, and I actually went back and had a chance to rewatch some of the first couple seasons, and I was like, wow, I'm really surprised. There's a lot of good writing, some good camera direction and stuff in there. It's crazy. So I always tell people, hey, go back to some of those shows that were good hits for like that season or two, or even long ones. Dallas, if you want to get into some of that was kind of always like adult drama stuff, but there really is some good writing and some substance. Yeah, Mork and Mindy, like the Terry Lynn pointed out. There is some great shows and episodes out there. So I just wanted to point that one out since it did actually, and it was one of my favorites. But I will admit, after like the first couple seasons, it really drops off into campiness, and it really got bad. That's why it didn't last super long.
Well, that theme song, everybody knows the theme song. All you got to do is just start the theme song, and you get more people to sing along with that than you will the Pledge of Allegiance. Because everybody just knows that song. And it brings back memories instantly to that show. So
yeah, that's the only way I still even remember. Well, not that song, but speaking of songs, like there was Bosom Buddies, right? Had that Billy Joel song.
Yeah,
And so anytime I hear that song, I remember the show Bosom Buddies
Tom Hanks,
because of the song. You know what I mean? So it's just funny how sometimes you associate, like some shows had really either radio hit type music, or they used a good song or whatever, or you can associate that with some of that. I have like a bunch of theme songs like on my phone and like on CDs and stuff. I'm a big fan of like music or like theme show type stuff. I got Knight Rider, Airwolf. Like I got a ton of stuff. Like even the old, collection of stuff all the way from, like I said, 60s, 50s shows, all that stuff, man. I love all the theme music stuff, man. It's just so fun. And I like rocking out to songs too, like Magnum PI had a great, guitar riff song. Like Simon and Simon had some great guitar work and fun in there. And anyways, we're so sidetracked, man. We got into the whole nostalgia thing, man, talking about shows and
what old fogies do. We talk about all the good old days,
right? We start talking about aliens, and next thing you know, we're talking about the good old days of TV, man. And because Tara Lynn, I know she would tell you like the Partridge Family, all the Brady Bunch, man. Like, and a lot of us that maybe didn't have like the normal traditional homes. They kind of played that surrogate parent type thing where like you saw these other families, and even though they were like comedically dysfunctional, they were like your American family. Dick Van Dyke was your dad, or the Eight of Us, or whatever. All these different shows, the Brady Bunch. You wanted to be a part of the Brady Bunch. You wanted to be a part of these shows sometimes, like especially for kids that didn't always have the perfect, mother father. I was raised with my grandparents and stuff, and so it was pretty cool.
All right.
So yes. I know we're getting sidetracked. Back to UFOs. All right, so let's open up the can. And so the government dropped all these files 15,000 pages. They're like, you know what? Here you go. Here's our stuff on UFOs. And the UFO community was like, oh my God. And Stacy, take it away. Give us what you found out.
Well, the first correction is it's not 15,000, it's 1,500.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's still a lot more than they
usually 15,000 originally. So
yeah, well, usually when the government drops papers on stuff that's been declassified, you get 6 pages that have all been blacked out. So it doesn't really this is significant, but it was part of a FOI request to a government organization that nobody knew existed until Luis Alonso, the guy that was the in 2017 on Christmas, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times showed the video of the Tic Tac. He's the guy that spilled the beans that he was part of what they call ATAP or ATIP,
right?
Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, and it was part of the Department of Defense. The program itself technically wasn't classified. It's just nobody knew that it existed, so they didn't know they could actually do FOIA requests. The Sun in England put one in, and that's where these requests came about. The 1,500 pages. The bulk of it has yet to be actually released to the general public, but the Sun has released certain tidbits that talked about anomalous, acute, and subacute field effects on human and biological tissue, which is basically what we were talking about before with microwaves and electromagnetic radiation burning people from the inside out, giving them all kinds of problems with their internal organs, kidney failures, and in some cases, anomalous, unknown pregnancies of unknown origin kind of thing. People would become pregnant, and then a few days later, they would not be pregnant anymore. They didn't know where all of this stuff came from.
More than just anal probes, I guess.
Yeah, and who knows what that was actually all about too. The problem that I've got with a lot of these documents that has been released is that nothing in it is unusual. Nothing in it is, none of the information that is in these documents to date, some of it has yet to be released, is anything that hasn't already been discussed, shown on the internet. You have MUFON, giving a list of all the different things that people experience during UFO encounters. You have conspiracy theories of, even stuff that's on the History Channel. All of these things can be found in the public domain that were in these files that the government is saying we're releasing. It basically looks like the government was aggregating all these UFO experiences that currently exist on the internet and putting them in one place, and then they're releasing it as though these are investigations of their own. None of this stuff that they've released showed that they were independent investigations of any case whatsoever. They were all hearsay and witnesses that have already testified their experiences to, like, MUFON. As a matter of fact, MUFON is the bulk of it so far.
Now, let me stop real quick and clarify something. So, I know Terry Lynn talked about there was a lot of files in the dump. So, was this a different dump? Because I know the one Terry Lynn's talking about, we downloaded a bunch of that stuff, and it was like, but it also had a lot to do with like even 9/11 reports, things like that. So, was that a separate kind of file dump that was put out there?
This was just dumped 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so this is a different dump, honey. This is he's talking about one just from a couple of weeks ago. The one that Terry Lynn's talking about, there was another dump. It had like 9/11 stuff. It had like, I think even like the laptop stuff. There was all kinds of stuff. Kind of. But
you got it from WikiLeaks?
Yeah, I think that was the WikiLeaks. dump.
Yeah,
The big dump.
Hillary Clinton's document.
Yeah,
Stuff
that
like that.
dump.
Yeah, that's WikiLeaks. This was an FOIA request by the Sun that they have sole possession of all of the documents, but they're dribbling out what what they're going through themselves. But nothing that they've given so far is any particular bombshell outside of the, you know, pregnancies that, and they said that there were 42 of those that they documented,
Right.
women that were pregnant and then not pregnant again. These were testimonies that you can literally find at MUFON, and a lot of the stuff they've correlated directly to MUFON because they've got records that go back to 1873 to 1994. MUFON essentially stopped or was cut off, one or the other. I think because of Bigelow took over the tips line for MUFON in 1994 when he bought Skinwalker Ranch and all this other kind of stuff. So all the way up to 1994, MUFON's got all these documents that were in the public domain that are also part of this document. So, or all of this document dump. And, I don't know whether this is something that the government is trying to do as like a smokescreen, needle in a haystack kind of thing. But to date, it's, the media was making a big deal out of it because, the whole idea of people suddenly becoming pregnant from unknown origins and then not pregnant anymore was kind of a big deal in the media. They're like, whoa, that can happen. Yeah, it happens. When they're cutting up cows and surgically taking out parts for unknown reasons, other than like hors d'oeuvres, you have to question their other surgical, skills, what they're actually doing in experiments. Anal probes just are funny to chuckle at, but
Right. Well, yeah. Terry Lynn said she wants, if you can, send her an email of that dump that you're like the one that you're talking about from a couple of weeks ago. But they also, when they did that WikiLeaks dump, well, they were, and this is what Terry Lynn was pointing out because this is true. It's like we had that like just crap election of just, it was such a cluster, and everybody was just pointing fingers at all the stuff. But then they like, and it was funny because just like Terry Lynn quoted, basically, government finally admits to aliens and UFOs, and no one is looking. It's like they were trying to distract, like, oh, what can we do to get them away from this whole election, this shit show of an election. So they're like, hey, yeah, UFOs are real, folks. And everyone's like, shut up. We already knew that. Anyways, back to the shit show. So
yeah, unless they're gonna, come out on the White House lawn and, shake hands or whatever, no one cares, because they're not doing anything. They're gonna share their technology. That would be cool. I'd like a flying car, but it's if they're just gonna sit and ogle us from the skies, have at it.
So basically what they've released so far is they've released the government's collection of internet like UFO stories and stuff.
Yeah.
Anything to do with like UFO stuff that the government collected off the internet, that's what they've released so far, basically, right?
Right. And as far as we know, there might just be an actual full episode of the X-Files in those documents too.
Right. It's like the script of like the movie or something, the X-Files movie.
Yeah, Alien versus Predator. We documented that.
Yeah.
Aggregating all of this, anything that has to do with aliens is being aggregated into one spot. And anything that is for real, you got to find it through the pile. But is it real?
Right.
It's mixed in with all the other crap.
And Bob says that he was commenting on the Grace Maker. He said that it was a strange show. Robert Culp was the FBI agent, and he played the part of Bill Maxwell. William Catt played the main character, right. And whatever her face was, like Seneca, I think, or whatever, played the Pam or whatever, I don't know. But anyways, yes, Robert Culp did an amazing job. I used to love Maxwell. He was like that, I loved him on that show. I think it was great. Yeah, Stacy's still waiting on my flying car. Jetsons was my favorite. However, the way people drive, I don't know if I want them flying above my house. You know, but it's funny. I think that's why Terry Lynn. That's why I tell people all the time, like when they look at the amount of technology that we keep having in our house, like with smart bulbs and um, talking trash cans and all the stuff that my wife puts in this house. It's like I know that it's because we grew up watching the Jetsons and stuff, and we wanted to have all that cool stuff. We wanted to have, so we got robot vacuum cleaners, which is the closest we can to having like our own R2D2 or whatever, or like Rosie the maid, type stuff from the Jetsons, right? So there is a part of that, like for us growing up at that time. We're part of that Generation X, right? So we that's why we do the technology that we do in this house. Now I'm a little old school in that sense of where I don't always do that. I'm like, why do we gotta have some? But I get it. Like Terry Lynn was part of that Jetsons thing, so I let her indulge in that. So I do not have a talking trash. Well, no, we don't have a talking trash can, but we do have to talk to the trash can. We do have to tell it to open. We say open can. So we do have to talk to the trash can. So yes, I stand corrected. The trash can doesn't talk, but you do have to talk to the trash can. Just about the same thing. So we have a lot of smart technology.
I got a lot of the A word, Amazon A word pucks that
whenever we want to talk about her without activating her, we call her Excella. So that's the name I came up with her a long time ago. So I'm like, so if we have to talk about her, like, yeah, we need to get another Excella or whatever. That way it doesn't activate. So that's why I'm used to saying that word Excella.
Well, I got it in this house because the square footage on the house is really large. And the guy who did the electrical was like a jack of all trades kind of guy, not really up to standard on what goes. So he'll have like light switches in opposite ends of the room to turn on it literally in the same area. So if you want to, turn on all of the lights in the kitchen, you have to go from one end of the kitchen all the way into the living room and turn both. It's crazy. We have it throughout the house. It's like that. And the switches themselves are really outdated, things you don't see except like on riverboats.
Right.
The dials that turn. And in order for the house to be comfortable and livable, I got the smart bulbs, got with the A word, and it's all, you just room by room, you just say, lights on, lights off. And everything works wonderfully.
We do that, like with all that. I will say it most of the time, 95% of the time works good. Every once in a while something gets off and we'll be like, Excella, kitchen lights on. And then it's like nothing, Excella, kitchen lights on. Then sometimes it'll come on, or sometimes like kitchen is not responding. Like we get some of that, and we're like, God, like, okay, so sometimes every once in a while there's a little bit of headache. Sometimes we've had to reprogram a few things, but some of that also is because that particular brand of smart bulbs stopped being compatible. I guess there was, licensing agreements and stuff, get in it or whatever. So
I got a separate hub for that. So the hub itself, controls, and then the A word talks to the hub. So
right. Well, we also do bad, like if our internet like goes out, or if God forbid if one of us accidentally throws the switch, the physical switch, because we don't have every because our house is we live in a mansion, so like we have so many rooms and stuff. No, we don't live in a mansion, but we have a lot of bulbs. Like we have quite a few. It's a pretty good sized house, but so there's some rooms that we just don't do smart bulbs. So like there's times where like you get used to doing that, and then all of a sudden, and then we also have the one where our main base is plugged into one of those outlets where the switch controls the outlet.
Mm-hmm.
We never touch that switch, but every once in a blue moon, one of us just has this brain fart, and we're like, oh, we just killed our internet, we just killed our Excella, we just killed all that. So
yeah,
mansion as if I know, right? I know. I was just kidding because it's the power of TV. See, people don't know what I live. I could be living in, trash can, but on the show, I can say I live in a mansion, man. Y'all are awesome. I live in a 30-bedroom, 17,000 square feet. I know. Just kidding. I would hate. I would actually. I don't like that. Like, I believe it or not. Like, if I ever did, if you guys out there watching this show, if you guys ever made me rich, um, trust me, I would not be living. You're not going to see me in like some big, fancy mansion. Like, it's just be a nice home. That's all I want. We live in a nice home now. Like, I don't desire all the materialistic type stuff. I will have some nice things. Don't get me wrong. Probably get a Tesla or something, but I wouldn't be out there with extravagant, sports cars and all this other shit, designer Humvees and stuff. That's not me, I mean, nice pickup truck, a couple Teslas or something for my wife and I.
I'm still waiting on my Cybertruck. I ordered this thing 2 years ago. And they're, saying it's going to be another 2 years before it gets to me. They just finished the factory in which they're going to be made, but they're not even going to start the Gigafactory for the Cybertruck until like the fall. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. Terlin's like your Tesla. Yeah. Now, I mean, that's why I said, honey, we would both have Teslas. See, no, if we just got one Tesla, I won't be mine. I know that. I might inherit, the Outback, but I won't get the Tesla. So
You get the luxury of rubbing up against it and plugging it in, and
I get the luxury of sitting in the passenger seat every once in a while. There you go. But anyways, folks, so what? Hey, I've said a lot. I've been talking, read my comments. I've been saying a lot of your comments. So you're on a delay, and I just been reading a lot of your comments. So, anyways,
Bob did ask, "Do you think the Skinwalker Ranch series is going to come back?" I really hope. That was actually a pretty good series. Have you seen it? It was on Netflix.
well, no, I didn't watch the Netflix one. I've seen documentaries. I've seen people go out there do film, and I've seen stuff about Skinwalker Ranch, but I didn't watch the series.
Yeah, I think they got two seasons going with on Netflix, and then they just stopped. And that was probably because everything was before COVID, and everything came to a screeching halt after COVID.
Right.
Pounds.
Yeah. So, guys, we're gonna start wrapping the show up again. I've got to go do some filming. Folks, got to go on a quest tonight. So, wish me luck. Hopefully, again, I can't give away anything, but obviously, Para X is going to have some objectives to overcome, or to some things to complete. So we'll see how it goes. But other than that, on the backside of things, guys, remember Paraflix. I'll put it up one more time. If you guys want to start watching our shows, we're going to start doing hopefully about 2 episodes of Para Explorers a month now. Again, with being an original series, we want to keep up with it, guys. But remember, if you want Paraflix, I'm telling you, it's like $4 a month or something. It's not expensive. But use promo code Para Explorers 10. It's right there in front of Stacy's chin there.
Great.
Yeah, there you go. So Para Explorers 10. Also, I do want to make sure that we have links down below. If you forget the Para Explorers 10, it's in the comment section. And also, if you guys want to take like remote viewing courses, Stacy's got courses as well. So we got a link down there for that. He's always coming out with like promos and stuff for his things. So once you take one of the courses, like a lot of times he hooks you up with promos for other courses. So I'm telling you, like, there's a lot of things if you guys want to learn or take some of these courses or get Paraflix, we got links down for you guys. So other than that, anything that you want to throw in there, Stacy, on your stuff at all? You want to?
Actually, I'm going to send out a promo code tonight. That the only people who've been signed up to my first course of the remote viewing basics are going to get this promo code. but it's good for all of my courses. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do remote viewing if you're not into that. You do the hoodoo, the hoodoo and conjure, the witchcraft, the prepping courses. The code will work for all of them. And it's going to be, because of the show tonight, UFO 2022.
Nice.
So
there you go.
You use that code. I'm going to be creating it here right after the show. That's what the code is going to be. So, give me a few minutes and then you can use that code, and, it's going to be good for 5 days. So.
All right. UFO 2022. So I like it. It's almost as good as Para Explorers 10. Almost. So I like it. Guys, I enjoyed tonight's show. I think it was great to talk about UFOs and aliens. I had fun. Man, there's so much more things we can talk about, alien stuff. But for more, you'd have to tune into another episode in the future. So keep coming back, guys. Every Thursday, we're here at 9 o'clock. Usually, again, go see Para Explorers. Go sign up for some courses with Stacy. We got all kinds of stuff. And if you guys have any questions, if you can't find something out there for you and you need to ask us about something or where to find something, email us. Contact us. We got all kinds of ways to be contacted us. Use the links down below. So, guys, remember, we'll see you in the next video. We'll see you next week. Seek the truth.
Peace.